Preparation for the second coming of Jesus Christ. My main sources for this video are Prepare Yourself for the Great Day of the Lord by President Ezra Taft Benson in May 1982 and Preparation for the Second Coming by Elder Dallin H. Oakes in April 2004. I encourage you to go away and study both of these talks, but in this video I'm just going to summarize the key points that I've picked up on. One of the signs preceding the second coming of Jesus Christ. Ezra Taft Benson reads from Matthew chapter 24 verse 32. And again, this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come, or the destruction of the wicked. There are 195 countries and territories in the world, and the Lord's Church has a congregation in 160 of those countries and territories. There are only 35 remaining. However, citizens of those 35 countries are being taught the gospel during travel abroad and are being converted. So does this technically mean every nation has very nearly heard the gospel? This prophecy is being fulfilled before our very eyes. Quoting from Doctrine and Covenants, section 88, Ezra Taft Benson reads, "For after your testimony," so after the testimony of the gospel has reached all the earth, "then cometh the testimony of earthquakes, that shall cause groanings in the midst of her, and men shall fall upon the ground and shall not be able to stand. And also cometh the testimony of the voice of thunderings, and the voice of lightnings, and the voice of tempests, and the voice of the waves of the sea heaving themselves beyond their bounds." I have never picked up on the fact that the thunder and the lightning and the earthquakes is the voice of the Lord. I think that's amazing. And what is the voice of the Lord saying in those thunder and lightnings and earthquakes? The voice of the Lord is saying, repent, because your time is running out. Repent and turn to me. What is interesting is that he says after your testimony, so after the gospel has been shared, that's when these big earthquakes and lightning and thunder and the sea heaving itself beyond its bounds, that's when those things will happen. But we're already seeing that happening. We're seeing the increase of flooding throughout the whole world. So if this part is already happening, then that means the previous part is already happening too. The church must have been taught already to all the nations of the earth. Doesn't mean every individual person, but every nation has heard the gospel. So we know that we're at the point where these natural disasters are going to get bigger and more frequent. And so now is the time to prepare your homes. How do you protect your home from these natural disasters? Think about it. What are you at risk of? Even the things that you don't think you're at risk of, because the earthquakes and storms or whatever, they're coming to random places. But then also think of food storage, water supply, a heat source, light. What are you going to do about that when these storms knock out the power, or the earthquake shatters the water pipes in the community? You know, what are you going to do if let's say you had to live off grid because the power's out, the water's out, you're basically living off grid. How would you survive then? That's what you need to think about now. Quoting from Doctrine and Covenants, section 45, Ezra Taft Benson reads, "And there shall be men standing in that generation that shall not pass until they see an overflowing scourge, for a desolating sickness shall cover the land." Some of us are the ones in that generation because we've already seen the previous prophecies come to pass. So this is relating to us. We will be around to see this. Some people thought the COVID-19 outbreak would be this desolating sickness to cover all the land. I disagree. The current statistics think that COVID killed an estimated 7 million people, which sounds like a lot of people. However, the Spanish flu claimed nearly 50 million. It's believed it could have been up to 100 million people. So COVID was nowhere near as bad as some previous outbreaks of sickness, which means COVID was probably a practice run for us. The Lord sent that as a practice run. What are we going to do when the big one happens? What did we learn from COVID? We learnt that we need food storage because people will panic buy and there will be no food left on the shelves. We will need first aid and medical supplies, as well as a knowledge and understanding of giving simple medical treatment, because we saw and still see that some people are unable to visit a GP for help. We saw how selfish people can be and how quick some were to turn to theft and violence when they ran out of supplies. So we need to be prepared for another lockdown, but perhaps a more prolonged one. We saw that church and temples were closed, so perhaps we need to prepare for home church and home study. Your home might become your ward very soon. On to a heavier warning. The world will present a scene of conflict such as has never been experienced before. Of all the wars that have taken place, of all the world wars that have taken place, of all the wars we saw in the Book of Mormon, in the Bible, the world will present a scene of conflict such as has never been experienced before. And it shall come to pass among the wicked that every man that will not take his sword against his neighbour must needs flee unto Zion for safety. And there shall be gathered unto it out of every nation under heaven, and it shall be the only people that shall not be at war one with another. My immediate question was, so does that mean that me and my husband will need to take our family to Zion? We know that Zion is the New Jerusalem in America. Do we need to travel there for safety when the time comes? Dallin H. Oaks answered my very question. He said, another sign of the times is the gathering of the faithful. In the early years of this last dispensation, a gathering to Zion involved various locations in the United States, to Kirtland, to Missouri, to Nauvoo, and to the tops of the mountains. Always, these were gatherings to prospective temples. With the creation of stakes and the construction of temples in most nations with sizable populations of the faithful, the current commandment is not to gather to one place, but to gather in stakes in our own homelands. There, the faithful can enjoy the blessings of the eternity in a house of the Lord. There, in their own homelands, they can obey the Lord's command to enlarge the borders of his people and strengthen her stakes. In this way, the stakes of Zion are for a defence and for a refuge from the storm, and from wrath when it shall be poured out without mixture upon the whole earth. So, a war is coming. Fortify your homes. Think about how you would protect yourselves and your families and your homes when the war comes to your doorstep. Food storage, water storage, fuel, medical supplies. But most importantly, be spiritually ready. Quote, you will live in the midst of economic, political, and spiritual instability. When you see these signs, unmistakable evidences that his coming is nigh, be not troubled, but stand in holy places, and be not moved until the day of the Lord come. Holy men stand in holy places, and these holy places include our temples, our chapels, our homes, and the stakes of Zion, which are, as the Lord declares, for a defence and for a refuge from the storm and from wrath when it shall be poured out without mixture upon the whole earth. That's so comforting to know that when the Lord tells us how to be ready for the second coming and for the disasters that are going to happen, he says, just stand in holy places. And these holy places are going to church on a Sunday and going to our meetings, going to the temple, having our homes a spiritual and physical refuge from the world around us. How comforting to know that the Lord is saying that those simple things that we probably take for granted, that's where our safety is going to be. And then President Wilford Woodruff said this, can you tell me where the people are who will be shielded and protected from these great calamities and judgments which are even now at our door? I'll tell you. The priesthood of God, who honour their priesthood and who are worthy of their blessings, are the only ones who shall have this safety and protection. They are the only mortal beings. No other people have a right to be shielded from these judgments. Wow. Just remember, the priesthood of God here is not just referring to men. It's not just men that are going to be protected from all of this. The priesthood of God and those who are worthy of their blessings. Remember all of those people who go to the temple, all of us who have been endowed with the power of God, and those who wear the holy garment of the priesthood. We will be protected as long as we are worthy of the blessings. As long as we are living inside of our temple covenants, we will be protected because of the blessings of the priesthood of God. In the 1980s, Ezra Taft Benson was talking to the youth. He said, "The youth of Zion, do you realize you are living in the days of the fulfillment of these signs and wonders? You are among those who will see many of these prophecies fulfilled." I hadn't even been born yet in the 80s, which means I will definitely see the majority of these prophecies fulfilled, which means my children will probably see all of these prophecies fulfilled. And what will happen when they see all of these prophecies fulfilled? Quoting from Doctrine and Covenants, section 45, "And the earth shall be given unto them for an inheritance, and they shall multiply and wax strong, and their children shall grow up without sin unto salvation. For the Lord shall be in their midst, and his glory shall be upon them, and he will be their king and their lawgiver." This sounds an awful lot like my children will be having children during the millennium, and that those children will be growing up with Jesus Christ as their king and their ruler, which means there is every chance that I will be around to see that too. "We know not the day nor the hour of his coming, but of this you may feel assured, you stand close to the great day of the Lord. In his words of modern revelation, we say to you, seek the face of the Lord always."